18 months after the chaos that split Hawkins apart, the town still feels like a living wound. Cracks scar sidewalks and buildings. The sky flares in unnatural colors on bad days. People move through their routines with an edge of exhaustion, as if the ground could give way again at any moment. The premiere opens by reminding us how small moments from the past never fully die. A brief, uneasy memory pulse suggests whatever began all of this is not finished. That sense of unfinished business carries through every beat. The story settles quickly into the new normal. The core group is scattered but not broken. Some are trying to rebuild lives, others are training, and a handful are quietly obsessed with finding a way to finish what they started. Eleven is no longer the same frightened child who first stepped into their lives. She is a weapon being honed. Under Hopper and Joyce's watchful, anxious care, she pushes herself in isolated training, practicing precise, exhausting drills meant to stretch her mind and body to a breaking point. There is a discipline and urgency to her work now. She is being prepared not only to defend, but to strike. The way she trains hints at a grim calculus. This is a final act, not a skirmish. At the same time, the emotional core of the show pulls the others back into a gritty human frame. Will maintains a low profile, but carries a new intensity. His sensitivity to the supernatural lingers, and he's noisily more aware of things that go bump in the night. Lucas, raw and restless, visits Max in recovery, playing the same melodies and telling the same old jokes in hopes of coaxing her back. Those hospital sequences are small and tender and ache with the knowledge that not every wound can be fixed. But they also carry practical urgency. Max's vulnerability is a reminder that Vecna's methods still work, and someone could be caught unprepared at any moment. The domestic moments, children tucked into bed, parents trying to shield them from the involuntary horrors outside, feel like a holding pattern for disaster. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang keeps doing what they can. Steve and Nancy move through the wreckage with stubborn competence, rallying whoever will listen to the reality that hiding is no longer an option. Dustin's technical curiosity becomes essential again. He's the team's glint of hope and resourcefulness, building scanners and gadgets that read the uncanny signatures Vecna leaves behind. Robin, practical and skeptical, helps translate research and connects the dots in ways emotion alone cannot. These moments of teamwork are pragmatic. They are people who have seen the abyss and know that only a plan stands between survival and collapse. The season's first episode stands as a study in tension building. Hints are dropped rather than answers given. Throughout the premiere, there are quick beats of reconnaissance and planning. The group moves in small cells, testing rifts and mapping the town for signs of the Upside Down's influence. They poke at things that are best left alone and find that every incursion has an appetite. The rips in reality are not mere holes, but wounds that throb and grow when disturbed. The visuals make this concrete. Surfaces ripple as if breathing, and sometimes a barely audible sound, like a clock or distant chime, threads through certain scenes, suggesting Vecna's peculiar signatures linger in the air. The show uses these cues to make the supernatural feel like a living predator, patient, precise, and remarkably intimate in its cruelty. As the first hour progresses, the focus tightens toward a quieter, more sinister discovery. Not every person in Hawkins is equally vulnerable. Vecna, the series' long-awaited antagonist, has a pattern. He preys on psychological fissures, deep regret, shame, isolation, not merely physical proximity. The premiere shows us, through careful framing and emotional close-ups, how certain characters carry the exact kind of psychic fractures that make them enticing targets. These are characters who have been broken in subtle, private ways, and these private breaks are exactly where Vecna lodges his hooks. One thread that grows increasingly ominous concerns the Wheeler household. Mike's family home, the heart of the kids' earlier innocence, now sits in a neighborhood that feels foreign and fragile. The youngest Wheeler child, who has been a largely background figure in past seasons, becomes an object of attention in the premiere. Small domestic disturbances, a light flickering, an offhand comment that becomes strangely meaningful in hindsight, accumulate until the feeling that something is watching the house is no longer paranoid. The show doesn't cheapen this with gratuitous jump scares. Instead, it layers quiet domesticity with a growing sense of dread, so that when the supernatural touches the home, the violation feels especially cruel. Will's relationship to these developments is quietly pivotal. He has always been the boy who understands the Upside Down in a way others don't. In the premiere, the script gives him moments of acute perception. He notices sounds, he reacts to the environment in ways the others dismiss, and his internal torment makes him both unusually attuned and dangerously isolated. His interactions with Max and in how he interprets small signs create a pattern of behavior that suggests he sees the world with an extra lens, one that filters danger into personal responsibility. That burden makes his character a natural locus for the show's emotional stakes. When he trembles, the audience trembles, and when he insists something is wrong, viewers feel compelled to listen. By the midpoint of the episode, the pacing becomes more urgent. Small victories, a displaced object returned to its place, a rift that appears to recede, are treated with the relief of people who have learned to appreciate minor wins. These are not cinematic triumphs, they are survival currency. Yet, as often happens in the show, the relief is short-lived. A single disorienting incident, a small crimson flare, a rippling sky, an audio cue that some viewers might hear as a distant chime, signals a change in Vecna's attention. The storytelling here is deceptively simple. Instead of showing a grand, monstrous reveal, the episode uses color, sound, and a small selection of visual motifs that resurface from earlier seasons to convey that Vecna's influence is consolidating. The red motif, in particular, is used as an alert, a cinematic shorthand that links back to the times when Vecna's presence was most terrible. Tension mounts through sequences that are procedural in their construction, but mythic in their implication. The teams make reconnaissance runs to where the world is most thin, deploying gadgets and scientific detectors, and they push into spaces that carry the faintest stains of unnatural energy. Each expedition yields clues that are more puzzling than instructive, and the ease with which they find sinister traces is chilling. It suggests that Vecna is less a distant conqueror than a careful planner who has been laying groundwork for the final act. The discovery beats function as breadcrumbs. The episode is intentionally parsimonious with exposition, so that anticipation, not explanation, drives the viewer forward. As the narrative arcs toward its close, the focus tightens around a particular revelation, the sense that someone has been singled out by Vecna's gaze. This is not given as a cliffhanger without setup. Rather, the episode arranges a set of converging visual and emotional signs, looks, reactions, a recurring sound that collectively point to an impending assault. Will's heightened sensitivity, Eleven's visions and training, and the domestic intimacies that anchor the town converge to make the threat feel immediate and personal. The creators deliver this revelation with restraint. Rather than staging a graphic attack in the premiere, they end with a tableau of dread, a child in a room, a subtle distortion of the wallpaper, a small but clear sign that the ordinary world has been pierced. The final image lingers on the face of innocence in a home now compromised, and the power of the moment comes from the viewer's understanding that the threat has moved from the abstract to the intimate. Beyond the central threat, the episode invests time in the quiet textures of post-trauma life, how communities reroute themselves around grief, how rituals of protection become ritualized, and how a few stubborn people refuse to accept the new normal. Scenes that might be simple exposition in other series, a meeting of the group, a discussion of strategy, here feel like a pact among people who have already lost too much. Their plans are less about victory than about buying time, creating footholds in a landscape that behaves like a predator. This gives the show a grave tone, and the characters' measured, sometimes bitter, conversations are more affecting because they come from a place of real loss. Stylistically, the premiere leans heavily on contrasts: intimate interiors versus vast, empty exteriors, warm, domestic light versus a cold, unnatural glow, the mundane, a child tucked into bed, versus the monstrous, a crack spreading through a wall. That visual language underscores the concept that horror has invaded the ordinary. The film language, slow zooms, abrupt cutaways, and the use of silence accentuates emotional beats without resorting to spectacle. When the trailer and promotional material hinted at blink-and-it-miss-it shots from the finale placed in the trailer, the episode doubles down on the approach. Tiny details matter, and the audience is invited to be detective as much as spectator. The episode concludes on an unresolved note that still feels conclusive in its menace. It establishes clear stakes. Hawkins is structurally and spiritually damaged. Vecna's reach is not merely physical but psychological, and this season will be about preventing the completion of a nightmare. There is a sense of mobilization rather than victory. People are preparing for a final confrontation, hardening themselves physically and emotionally. The last beats do not provide comfort. Instead, they crystallize the promise of the season. This is the reckoning, and it will demand everything the characters have left. Overall, the premiere acts like a scalpel, cutting away unnecessary spectacle to expose the urgency beneath. It uses small human moments to make the supernatural terrors feel plausible and immediate, and it closes by putting a face on the threat. The danger has shifted, and those who ignored it before will now have to stand and face it, or lose what remains. The episode sets the table for a season that is not just about battles and monsters, but about what a community does when the last barrier to annihilation is emotional resolve.